What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 151 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors from all genres. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author, sometimes they're returning guests, and sometimes it's someone new. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. Today's episode features a chat with Rhys Bowen, talking about her book, The Castle in the Glen. That book is available now. Fun conversation with Rhys. She is so experienced and has such a she has such a huge list of previous works from her writing career. And it was really cool to learn about her research and get to know just the challenges that she faced just as a seasoned writer and trying to come up with new ideas. Some spoilers might pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why I am telling Rhys that I don't think I'd ever want to visit Australia, then hit pause, add this episode to your playlist, and pick up a copy of The Castle in the Glen. This interview will be here when you're ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am saying what the fuck to them for making me feel things. Just please be mindful around listening ears and to your comfort level. Books coming out this week: Devil Inside by Clay McLeod Chapman. He is going to be an upcoming guest as well. His episode is coming out soon as well this month. And Devil Inside is a horror plus romance, demonic possession, and basically exploring what happens when someone who is going to hell falls in love with a demon. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Rhys Bowen. So today we've got Rhys Bowen. We're talking about her book, The Castle in the Glen. That book was available on August 4th. Rhys, thanks so much for joining me today. I just finished this book last night. I stayed up late because I was like, I'm almost done. I really enjoyed it. I'm a sucker for historical fiction and also kind of like crime suspense-ish stories.
Yeah,
So this was the
yeah.
best of both worlds. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to be digging a little bit deeper today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And that's the sort of books I like to read. I like to read historical with some suspense, and I like
Yeah.
books that take me somewhere.
Exactly. And yeah, and it's the storytelling too, right? You got to like lead the reader in, you got to leave clues and
Yeah,
try to find that balance of not making it so obvious, but also like helping the reader maybe put it together with the character and stuff. Cause I loved your main characters. I loved
Emma.
Emma. Yes, Emma Caldwell, now that you say it. I really I loved her as a main character. She was self-assured, maybe a little self-doubt though, but she was just like she could stick up for herself and she was just very entertaining. It was very entertaining to watch someone like her try to figure everything out and try to put the pieces together. And she's like, none of that, wait, this doesn't make sense. Oh, wait, maybe it does make sense. Wait a second. Like
Yeah.
it was fun to be on that journey with her. So to get started, can you share a summary of the book so that people can become familiar with it?
Yes, I can. Okay, so imagine there's a very famous mystery author. Think of the level of Agatha Christie. And she is in her 80s, suffering from the beginnings of dementia, and she can't finish her last book. So a brand new young writer, is hired to finish it for her. The main author is Australian, and she chooses a young Australian girl who's now in London, and her name is Emma Callender, and she's fishing a bit to try and find her way. She's written her first book that got really good reviews, etc. But then what do you do after that? She's now in a place she doesn't really know. She feels like a fish out of water in London, but she can't write another book about Australia. So when she's hired to do this, she's really confused that this other woman would have hired someone like her. Can I possibly do it? Can I possibly write a book for Iris Blackburn? That's be like me writing a book for Agatha Christie.
Mhm.
But she says she'll give it a try. She reads through what's written so far, and she can see it needs some big edits, but it's an intriguing story, and it breaks off right in the middle. There couldn't be more of a cliffhanger where it breaks off. And when she asks Iris says, I don't know. So Emma herself goes to the island of Skye in Scotland, where the book is set, and tries to get the feel more of what it was like in the story, finds out that the castle is a real place and that real people are living in it still, the same family. And then she finds out that the fictitious crime is actually a real crime that happened quite a long time ago at the turn of the 20th century. And the more she digs into it, the more she can't help feeling that somehow Iris Blackburn was involved in it. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it was I because I, like, take notes when I'm writing, and it's really funny to see my progression of, like, I'm calling it right now, and then I was wrong. Like, when I'm trying to, like, put the pieces together with her, but that's the fun of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I could tell also, like, you first of all, you've got, like, it seems like a million published works, like,
Mhm.
already. You've got quite
Yes.
a prolific,
Yeah.
packed repertoire. So, I wanna explore because this was kinda like a story within a story, and you kinda had to
Oh,
develop 2
yeah.
different stories.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I kinda wanna explore, like, your approach to this, and do you approach it the same way as your other works? Was there anything that you like, any big lessons learned, think that you were surprised to learn, stuff like that?
I like to give myself challenges. If you look at my books, there are very few books that start on page with one with, oh gosh, there's a body here. We solve it and then we say the end. So the challenge I gave myself in this, which did turn out to be a challenge, was that I've written a big chunk of Iris Blackburn's book in Iris Blackburn's style. But in Iris Blackburn's style, when perhaps she's got the beginnings of dementia, that was quite a challenge for me to write in a style that wasn't my own within the book.
Mm,
So we do see a big chunk of this book that Iris Blackburn has started to write and then can't finish. So that was the big challenge in this for me.
yeah. Yeah, I can see that because you're just that's the tricky part, I guess, because you are just so used to with so many titles, so many years of doing this, you're just so used to writing in a certain voice and a certain
Yeah,
style, and to pretend to be another author. I
yeah.
bet that was like I bet that was, like, really cool for you to experience. Because have you ever done that before then? That's
No, no,
yeah,
never.
yeah.
No.
That's fun. That's really fun, that's cool. I imagine you were, like, maybe learned a little bit about yourself too because you were like, "Oh, like, wait, can I do this?" And
The interesting thing about this book is as I started, I knew what I wanted to write, and I knew that the author was there were Australian characters in this. And I should add that in the 1960s, first of all, I was in swinging London. And then I lived in Sydney, Australia. So I've got the feel for both of those places at that time. And as I wrote it, it felt one of my daughters read it and said, this feels the most genuine sense of place of any of your books. So I think that's interesting that I was reliving it myself. I was walking through those same streets when I was writing this.
yeah, yeah, that's and then you were able to channel yourself into Emma too because
Yeah.
she
Oh,
had to
absolutely.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, I did the opposite. I went down to Australia and then I'm in Sydney where I know nobody. And it's a lovely place when you haven't got a support group around you. She has two very nice flatmates who are kind to her, but she has no family around and nowhere really to turn. And so I think she's floundering a bit in London because as we find out her background, we do find that her family's pretty much been taken from her. So she doesn't have a place where she feels she belongs. And I think
Mm.
I felt that for quite a lot of the time in my life, where I went from London down to Australia. I got married in Australia, came up to California, and it's like, where is my place? Where do I actually belong?
Yeah, like, exploring that or, like, yeah, trudging up those feelings 'cause
Yeah.
and channeling them into Emma, and, like, you're brave for going to pl Australia of all places
Oh,
to go, like, kinda spread your wings because Australia, I'm just terrified of it. I don't think I
why?
ever had like, I don't think I ever have any desire to visit Australia because it
You
seems
mean
like
all the poisonous things that live
yes,
there? There's
yes,
lots of poisonous things. Yeah,
yes.
there are.
I feel like everything's there is like has a chance to kill you. I don't know.
Oh,
Like, and even
yeah.
like the kangaroos, sometimes they look cute, but they're like beefy.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I took my kids down once. My parents moved down there too, so I had my parents moved down after I did, and I took my kids down to see their grandfather. And my daughter in the back seat is reading like from the Australian guidebook, saying the redback spider, and then the funnel web spider, and then the blue octopus can kill you in 5 seconds. And it was like everything can kill you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm not much of an adventurer to begin with, so,
Uh,
like, I'm fine staying put or visiting places that will not, because I maybe my, like, alert system would be, like, running, but I think I would just be like, like, what would I do other than stay in the mainland, or, like, in the city, but I feel like even in the city, you could still find things
no,
hiding and
it's really I lived there, and then my I used to go and see my parents at least once a year,
yeah.
and I only once encountered something that was fairly scary, which was a very large spider this size. But
No, thank
apart from
you.
that, I never saw a snake. I never saw anything.
Okay.
They might be there, but they see you coming and they hide. So
Okay, good. They know there's place, but
yeah,
no,
yeah,
even spiders, no, thank you. I have to, like, pretend that they're not in my house because 'cause I'm like, you get the good
yeah.
bugs."
Oh yeah.
Like, that's how they pay their rent. That's how I just try to
Yeah.
comfort myself.
I know I'm not a fan of spiders either.
Yeah.
I don't like snakes. I can encounter quite well because they're big enough and I can see where they are, but they don't move like this.
No, they just move. They have their own creepy way of moving. So, let's see, what your background, your writing is in along the same lines of, like, either historical fiction and crime fiction type of okay,
Yeah.
so, like, you mentioned it, but I kinda wanna explore, like, what draws you to the genre besides, like I feel like there's just something special about it, and, like, for you to write so many so much in that style, I wanna explore how you get yourself in the zone, maybe, like, how what draws you to it.
I think I've been a fan of mystery novels all my life. When I was a kid, there was a series in England called The Famous Five, and that's my equivalent to Nancy Drew. They
Okay.
were four teenagers and a dog who went off on camping trips and they always managed to find missing treasure or smugglers or and it was always fun adventures, and they did things that obviously I'd like to have done, to go to an island without any adults and camp there for a month or something. So they did these things that weren't very practical really, but so I grew up loving that. And then when I was about 12, I suppose, I got my first library card to the adult section, and I went in this big library and looked around. I had no idea where to start. And then on the shelf, I saw the name Christie, and I thought, "Oh, I know her." And so I knew my mum read Agatha Christie, and she read, like, Ngaio Marsh and Dorothy Sayers and things. So I started, and I worked my way all the way through these queens of the golden age. They were fun because they were all a puzzle. You never got emotionally involved with those characters. You never cared who the body in the library was, really. But it was fun to see if you could figure it out before Hercule Poirot says, "Ah, it was actually the butler." I enjoyed them because they were escapists. They weren't in any way too dark. There
Mm,
wasn't any real violence. And they were a nice escape. Still now, if I'm in a stress mode, I've got all of Agatha Christie on my shelf. I will grab one and say, "Can I remember this story?" And then I start to read. And usually in the middle, I go, "Oh, now I remember." But they are there, that comforting space.
yeah.
So I think I grew up enjoying mystery novels. And it wasn't really until I discovered Tony Hillerman, who writes about the Southwest, that I really decided what I wanted to do.
Mm,
And the fact is, he could not only give you a really good mystery, he took you there. He made you feel you were in a place. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to write so that my reader feels, oh my God, I've been transported to Scotland. That's that when I switched to, I'd been writing young adult novels before. I switched to my first mystery series, which was set in North Wales, a police constable in North Wales, and my mother's family's Welsh. So I spent a lot of time in Wales growing up, and I really had a good feel for the place and the mountains of Snowdonia and everything. That was my aim, was to take you to Snowdonia, let you feel what it was like. So I think, and I got into writing historicals more by accident, I think, because
mm.
I had decided that I wanted to write uh, a female protagonist, and I wanted her to be feisty and probably not always wise and not always knowing when to shut up. A little bit more like me. I've always been rather outspoken. I didn't know where I wanted to set her until I went to Ellis Island, and I was completely emotionally overwhelmed by what I felt there. I don't have ancestors that came through Ellis Island, but I stood there feeling that the walls were crying out to me with the stories waiting to be told. And then you
Yeah,
stand there and you look across that little narrow, shining strip of water, and there's Manhattan. And you think, you cannot make that final step into America unless the government says you can. If you failed any of the medical tests or anything, you'd be sent straight back. So I thought, this is the ultimate locked room mystery. And that was when I created Molly Murphy, who has to flee from Ireland when she accidentally kills the man who's trying to rape her. And he's the landowner's son, and she knows she'll get no justice. So she flees as far as she can, gets to Ellis Island, and she's using someone else's name. And while she's on Ellis Island, a murder occurs, and this name shows up as the prime suspect. So that was the driving force behind Murphy's Law, which was the first book in that Molly Murphy series. And it came out with 4 award nominations, and it won 3 of them,
Yeah,
including
wow.
including the Agatha Best Novel. So it got the series off to a really good start. So I've really enjoyed since. When I finished that, got to the end of that book, I thought, I know nothing about Manhattan in 1901. I'm going to
Mm,
spend the rest of my life doing research. And of course, that's proved to be one of the great joys in writing historicals is the research is this wonderful rabbit hole that you find so many things you didn't think about. And that's something I really enjoy. So I think that's why another reason I've stuck mainly to historicals since then is that crime scene investigation has become so mechanical since then. Oh, let's examine the DNA and the blood spatters and everything. In those days, all you had to do was your observation and your powers of intuition, etc. So the sleuth was really on her own and had to really work hard. And also, there were so many good motives for killing someone. When you think about it, in those days, I love another, but I am not free, or I am the true heir to the fortune. All those things just can be wiped aside now. And in those days, they were reasons you'd kill.
yeah. Yeah, wow. Oh God, that's so fascinating. That's like, I bet that's such a fun look to see how the genre has evolved
Yeah,
based
absolutely.
on
Yeah,
nuances like that. That's
yeah,
so cool. I love no,
yeah.
but you said a lot of things that I definitely like agree with. My husband and I traveled to New York and we had like I think we had some flight miles to use. And so we're like, okay, quick, like long weekend. And we did the touristy stuff. But yeah, Ellis Island was definitely one of
Mhm.
those. And it was one of like I was pregnant at the time. So I ran out of steam for a minute. So I was just sat there, but it was still like cool to just sit there like while my husband continued exploring. But I was just like looking around, I was like, this is like, yeah, it's like, can you imagine? That's why, and then the political climate is so crazy and sensitive right now, but I will always just be in awe of people who can just leave their
Yeah,
home because they have to and
yeah,
figure out how to survive and live, let alone
yeah,
prosper,
yeah,
above the minimum in a new place where they don't know anybody. They have a couple family members to help them, but they don't know
yeah.
anything. They don't know the language. That's why I have, and that was like the beauty of America. That's what like was so much hope for so many. Where Ellis Island, that's what that symbolizes. So I totally like, yeah, I
And
totally feel that.
the other thing I should point out is to people right now, nobody came here legally.
Nope.
You didn't get permission to come here. You came here on the boat hoping you'd be admitted. And if you looked as you were strong and you'd be a good worker somewhere, you were admitted. If you came in with any sort of disability, you were sent back. So nobody came in saying, "Oh, I've got the ticket to come here." You didn't. You bought your own passage and you hoped that when you got here, you'd be let
Yeah.
in.
That's wild. Because it's
Yeah.
like then did they know this before hopping on that boat? Or
Oh,
like, 'cause
yeah.
I can't imagine how anxious one might be the whole
Yeah, I
trip.
mean, they fled from situations that were
Yeah,
they fled from a pogrom, from a burned village, or from a famine where everybody was dying. I mean, they fled
yes,
from situations they couldn't live in any. Nobody leaves their homeland unless they really have to, because
yeah,
everybody feels they belong to their home. And so
exactly.
if your homeland's in flames, or if everybody's dying of famine, you leave it and you hope for a better life somewhere else.
Yeah, I did visit Ireland with a 'cause that's where half of my a large part of my family's from. And so that was like a bucket list item, and it was really great because it did provide a little bit more perspective. And then also even just reading books like yours set in kind of like Scotland's different, but it's the same vibe almost. It's like when they made jokes about, like, "Oh, if the weatherman says it's gonna be good weather, it's gonna rain." Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like the Ireland was kinda like that. It was, like, fine, but it wasn't, unexpected. It was just kinda like, oh, you just kinda layer up and prepare for it, and but, yeah, I definitely some of your descriptive storytelling and the
mhm,
details, how you really wanted to put the reader into that space. Having been to a region that's similar, that helped for sure, and it brought me back too, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, man," like, it's kinda like, "Oh, gonna go back," like, a little nostalgic, like, it was and then just also, maybe a little I felt for Emma who was, like or even, like, some of the other characters who were just the islanders, they were just used to the terrain, or they're like, "No, you're not gonna go there, you can't make it there, you can't take the
Yeah,
car there, you got nobody wants to walk that," like, so it puts things into perspective too, kinda, like,
yeah,
gets you in the zone, like, what these characters have to deal with just to, like, get around,
yeah.
and they have to rely on the community that's there.
Yeah, and of course, this book doesn't take place in the present, it takes place in the 1960s. These days, there is a bridge across to Skye. In those days, you had to take the ferry way to get there, and it's still pretty unpopulated. There's still probably just a few one road around the edge and one road across the middle pretty much. And I think I went there with friends, and we went on sort of a hiking holiday, and it was beautiful. The mountains and the waterfalls and everything are just stunning. But when you get there, the first thing you discover is it's a place of great beauty and of danger.
Mm,
You always get that feel that the danger's just around the corner. We found it in a big way in that one of my group was reading the guidebooks and said, "Oh, we have to do a hike up Blaven, which is one of the mountains." So we go up, and oh, it was quite a steep hike and etc. We get up near the top, and the mist comes in, and suddenly you can't see the person in front of you, and there's a drop on one side of you, and you suddenly think, "We have to get down from here." So I had that really personal feeling of what the danger was like there when I was on Skye. So I think that is I did manage to convey that to the reader too.
yeah, especially when Emma is like when she's kinda like the jig is up a little bit, when she starts to suspect certain things and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh god," like, that's it's funny, you said, like, it's beautiful, but it's dangerous, and I'm like, "Oh, like Australia." Like, that's what passed through my mind. So I kinda wanna explore some other things. Let's see, so there's, like, serious topics, like murder mystery-ish, and just oppression against women and mistreatment of the social class and, like, oh, people there was a lot of basically when it's like the whole part of it was arranged marriage,
Yeah.
looking at someone below their station type of deals. Exploring kind of all those themes, sensitive or not, like how did you kind of navigate those, especially with like the sexual assault or like the murders or even just some of the maybe a little bit of trauma too that some of the characters had experienced?
Yeah, yeah, I'm walking a fine line always, but I like to tell things exactly as they were. And if you were a daughter of a landowning family, your marriage was a bargaining chip. That you were going to they were going to find a family with similar estates, and you're going to marry, and then you suddenly doubled the amount of land you had. And so I think that was true and well into the 20th century. If you watch Downton Abbey, they want their daughters to marry the right sort of person and bring the money into Downton. So I think many people in the the classic one, look at this, Prince Charles and Princess Diana is an absolute classic one of an arranged marriage for a good reason. He'd got into his 30s and he hadn't found a suitable bride. She was from an aristocratic, solid British family, and she was a virgin, and she was only 19, so she could be molded to be what they wanted her to be. And there was no love there at all on his part. He knew he had to produce an heir, which he did. But the poor girl, she's only 19, and if a prince says to you, "Would you like to marry me and be a princess?" You're going to go, "Oh, oh, that
Yeah.
sounds wonderful." And she probably felt she was really in love with him, and he found her a nuisance. It was a marriage that was doomed from the start, but that's
Yeah.
what happened. Until recently, that's what happened in most aristocratic marriages. There was very rarely a marriage for love, and often the husband would have a mistress outside of the marriage.
Mhm.
Everybody knew about it, and so it was not a happy thing often. This poor girl in Scotland they want her to marry a man who we discover is a really obnoxious prick, and we don't want her to marry him. But how does she have any way out? She's 18, she lives in a castle in Scotland. That's one thing I should point out. there are on the island of Skye, there are several castles like that a family still lives in since about 1200. They're these horrible bleak stone castles, and you think if you grew up somewhere like that, you must have grown up with a slightly warped sense of what the world was like.
Yeah, yeah, maybe a little jaded, maybe a little,
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah,
just maybe a little on edge or, like, a little cynical, right? Like, just yeah, just expecting the world to be a certain way
yeah,
and not trusting easily, I bet, or
yeah.
just yeah,
Well,
I
and also at that time, if what the story takes place in the book, within the book, it takes place in the 30s, but we find out it really took place in the early 1900s. At that time, the laird, the landowner, was the one who literally owned everybody on his land. All of the cottages belonged to him and they worked for him. And he probably took a portion of whatever they grew in their fields, and they were essentially his peasants. And that was something it's hard to realize today, that there were people who owed everything to the landowner.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy because like, you can't looking at today, it's what? Like, wait, what do you mean? Like, that's it's just not like that anymore, and it's hard it could be tricky to wrap your head around it unless you are, like, a crazy reader or maybe a crazy
Yeah,
writer like you, where you're just like, "No, I've done all the, like, years of research. This is absolutely how it went down."
yeah,
So, yeah, I bet, like, there's just so much to play with there in terms of, like, the material that you
yeah.
have to go
Oh
on, and
yes,
yeah, and you took it there. You wove it in, and you took us to, like, all these different, like, trains of thought. Because 'cause I'm, like, the type of person who doesn't always, catch on. I'm like, "That's fine, I'm okay with that being, like, my reading experience," but and then even when I do catch on, I'm like, "Okay, let's see if it plays out, like, let's see how it plays out." But I love it when I'm, like, proven wrong, like how I said earlier. I was like, "Oh, I bet it's this, I bet this and that," and then I was
yeah.
like, "Oh, wait, never mind." I was like, "Okay, well done, Reese."
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you did mention earlier the challenging part to write, which was kinda like
Mhm.
changing your voice to write a story within a
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
What were there any, like, really enjoyable parts to write?
Well, revisiting Skye was really enjoyable because it is so remote and it's so beautiful. And my husband was going through an awful lot of health challenges last year, and
Okay.
he passed away this spring. So
Oh,
I was
sorry to hear
dealing
that.
with thank you, very difficult personal environment. So to be somewhere where I could look at the videos again and think, oh yeah,
Mm,
that was the fairy pools and that was that bridge, and so it was a lovely escape place. And the people there are very soft spoken. In When I was there in the 60s, most of them spoke Gaelic still. I think probably some
mm.
of them still do, but their English is very soft spoken with a lot of sounds. Yes, my dears. It's And so they're very sweet people there. So it was a lovely escape to be there. And also I think to cheer for Emma, because at the beginning she really is a bit of a lost soul. And as we go through the story, she does find allies, and she finds a meaning, and she finds the self-confidence, because that's what we see at the beginning. They want her to write another book. The first book has done really well, and she's scared to start because what if I fail? And so by the end of the book, she really knows who she is a lot more, and she's come back with some self-confidence, and of course by the end of the book finds herself in a really good place, which I'm not going to tell you about.
Yeah, I was like when I noticed that, I was like, "Oh my god." I
Yeah,
was like, "Yay."
yeah,
So, let's see here. Okay. I'm gonna ask you maybe a couple fun ones. Which character would you go to if you needed in the whole book, which
yeah.
character would you go to if you needed to plan a party?
I needed to plan a party. Oh, that would be easy because Emma's roommate Jilly is the absolute party girl. She's on the fun scene in London, and she wears her clothes from Carnaby Street, and she's really in with the scene, and she's always got a string of boyfriends. So she'd bring lots of people to the party for you.
Perfect. Yeah, I could sense that too. That's why I did like at least she had her girls, right? At least she had a
Yeah,
couple flatmates who were like
yeah,
they were kind of hyping her up a little bit, letting
yeah,
her know like they were totally supportive. She had her own little circle and
yeah,
I love it. Just like you need a good girlfriend or two,
yeah,
right?
yeah. No, they're
Um
yeah.
which character would you go to if you needed to prep for a first date? I'm thinking maybe that's along the same lines.
Yeah, I think both of them. I think
Yeah.
both Robin and Jilly would. At the very beginning of the book, she comes in very distraught because she's been out on a first date with a guy who has lured her back to his apartment on false pretenses. And she's a little bit naive
Mm.
and she's not really a London girl. And her frat mates are like, oh, come on, not the old I've forgotten to post a letter trick. So they're aware of this. And the interesting thing is today, we'd be horrified with that. We'd say, you should report him. But back in the 60s, that was more
Yeah,
acceptable.
we
So,
know a little
yeah,
bit better. I think just
yeah,
with the social media does come in handy that way because then
yeah.
you get to
Oh, yeah,
start those conversations where it's like, no, this is wrong, right? This
yeah,
is really
yeah,
creepy and you might not be safe if you do
yeah,
that, right? Like
yeah,
it's like, no, dude, how presumptuous. Get out of here. Like
yeah. Now, I think girls were definitely, you were fair game and you had to be pretty savvy and you had to be pretty wise because
yeah.
young guys would like, oh, let's grab what we can grab. And it wasn't, there was no Me Too at that time. Yeah. So I think my characters had to be learn to be very savvy rather quickly in London.
Yeah, yeah. We eventually got there, but good, yeah, good
Yeah,
for people back in the day who figured it out too. Even
yeah,
if it's
yeah,
unfortunately probably the hard way sometimes, but it's crazy how it's a different skill set that you have to develop
yeah.
for sure. And then which character would you go to if you needed to hide a body?
Oh, if I needed to hide a body, I'd go to Iris Blackburn
Yeah.
because she's a very famous mystery writer. She probably knows the best ways to dispose of a body very quickly.
She's probably got like a million different options too. Like
Yeah. Or else the other thing would be one of those villages on the island of Skye because they would know some place somewhere where you could push a body down a hole somewhere and no one would find it for 300 years. Yeah,
I love how you kinda, like you could pull this also from, like, your background knowledge of just, like,
yeah,
doing research or doing like, getting into
yeah,
your characters' brains. I love it.
yeah.
What I love to do is think of bookish drinks or bookish cocktails. Have you ever thought of which character would you love to have a drink with, and then what would be their drink of choice? Or you could pick
Um,
a couple characters if you can't pick
yeah,
one.
I'd certainly like to have a drink with Tony because I think he's really nice. And
Oh, he was so sweet.
I liked him. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he drinks. I don't think he would drink enough to get wasted. It would be fun to have a drink with the two Australian girls because I'm sure they probably both drink quite a lot. People in Australia did drink much more than England, but they grew up being beer drinkers, and of course Emma grew up on a winery, so
Yes.
she didn't like wine much, but she I don't think cocktails were really in at that time, but we could introduce them
Mm,
and we could create something like a Highland sunrise with some really good Scotch whiskey and a
yeah.
splash of orange juice and then some ginger ale. That might be
Yes.
good. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Or I even said, like, it was funny when I was in Ireland, it was like they called it because it's like the Gaelic word is ushka or whatever, like that's how you'd pronounce it. And then it's like, oh, water, like water of life, of whiskey.
oh,
And I'm like,
oh.
that's hilarious. Like,
Yeah. Oh, you know the other Scottish drink that's real. My father was a huge fan of Drambuie, the liqueur, and
mhm.
to have that over ice on a hot day is really lovely too.
Yeah, I think I that name rings a bell. I don't know if I've ever had it. We did go to like the Irish Whiskey Museum when we were
Yeah,
there. So we
yeah,
had a tasting.
yeah,
But it was almost like it makes me we went on the Jameson
yeah,
distillery tour and they even had it lined up where you could compare it to American whiskey. And I was like, okay, no, I know for sure I like Irish whiskey better than American whiskey. And I was just like, it was really cool to compare that and to like, and then it was like, okay, what does Ireland have going on here? It's wild.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of Scotch, but if you add it to ginger ale or something, then it's pleasant enough.
Yeah, right? I think that was the one thing that I think it was, yeah, the tour, they gave you like a ticket to get a drink like as you're going through the tour. And when it's like you can have, I think it was like on the rocks, or you can have it with ginger ale, or I think it was like you could just have a straight shot of it. And so I chose like I didn't want to go too hard. Still did ginger ale and whiskey. And then some people had it on the rocks, but there was this one guy who was like on the opposite side of the island and he had such a thick accent and then he's like, "What did you choose?" And I was like, or he's like, "What you choose there?" You're like, I'm like trying to imitate an Irish accent, but I was like, "Oh, I got the ginger ale and whiskey." And he was like, "Oh, like spent all that time taking that shit out and you put it back in." Like,
Yeah.
It was so funny. I was like, "Okay, like, I'm trying to
Yeah,
like, I'm not trying to go too hard here. I'm trying to keep a good pace." And he was just like, "Oh." He's like, "What are you? You said you were Irish." I'm like, "Yeah, this is the part where you enjoy the craft of it, right?"
yeah.
So yeah, it's like some people can just, like, handle it.
No, I don't like straight spirits. If you go to tastings in Scotland and they go, "This one has a little peat flavor with overtones of blackberries," like, "No, it doesn't. It's just stings."
Like Emma, she was like, "Oh god." Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's so funny. Okay. So, Rhys Bowen, do you are you working on anything? What's your next project? Anything that you could talk about?
Yeah, I can. I'm almost finished a book that's gonna be turned in about 2 or 3 weeks, and being me and not liking to write something that's just straightforward, this one's different in a different way. It takes place in the present and in 1450.
So, like,
So
dual timeline?
yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, so in 1450, we see we're in a convent and a book is being written, and it's one of the first books that's ever actually gonna be printed on a printing press in England. And in the present, a library at a beautiful house is being appraised by this young woman. She's been sent out from Sotheby's to appraise the library. And because they're trying to make a go of their house, they've got this big stately home in England with all the grounds and everything. And it costs a fortune to run. And his father has just had a heart attack. And
Mm.
if he dies, they will charge inheritance tax on the property that's 40% of the property.
Oh,
So he's desperate not to have to sell up. So he's trying to see, do we have anything here that's really valuable that would actually bring us in some money? So during the appraisal, she finds this book. And the neat thing about this whole story is it's a real book.
oh, wow.
It's a
Poor
real book that was written by a nun in 1450, and it's a treatise on hunting and hawking and all that sort of thing. And
Written
in
by
the
a nun?
written by a nun. And in the middle of it, there is a list of about 4 pages of collective nouns. And they're the nouns that we know these days, like a murder of crows, a flock of geese, etc. And we don't know if she invented most of these or if she
Mm.
gathered them, but a lot of them, they're so fantastic. I pictured these nuns sitting together and creating these. For example, an unkindness of ravens
Right.
and an exaltation of larks. They're just gorgeous. And so when I read of this book, I was just so fascinated. Like, I got to write about this, and we're going to see how it. So the two stories blend together all the way through.
Nice. That's really cool. I that's like little tidbits, like trivia, right?
Yeah,
That's like you just stumble upon. That's I don't know if
yeah,
I would ever remember that information. I would recognize it. But if somebody asked me to like spell it and hold up my answer, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know." Like cuz well like an
yeah.
exaltation of larks, is that what you said?
Exaltation of larks. Isn't
Yeah,
that?
see, that's wild. That's why
I mean,
it is beautiful, but it's just like, yeah, like how did they come up with this and why?
I wanted to call the book that, and the marketing people said no. So it's now called The Language of Lost Birds, which I really like too.
Oh, that is a nice
Yeah,
title. Oh, that's
yeah, yeah,
beautiful. That's nice. That's fun. I'm glad you found something that's kind of
yeah.
like, you
Yeah,
know,
we always with titles, we always go backwards and forwards like, "Why how about have we thought of this? No, I don't like that. How about this?" And
Yeah,
in the end, one of us will say, "What about this?" And everybody goes, "Oh, yes."
yeah,
So,
nice. Oh,
yeah,
perfect. Yeah, it is a whole you gotta like trust their expertise because if somebody
yeah,
saw it or like read it in like their online like to read list, it's kind of like, oh,
yeah,
that's yeah, like the law, like that's really cool. I that one does sound a little bit sexier than the other one, right?
yeah, yeah. I wanted the castle in the Glen, I wanted to call it From Sea to Sky. Um, and marketing said, "No, you can't do that. You've already had a book with sky in the title."
Oh,
Even though it's not the same sky, people will say, "Oh,
yeah.
sky." Yes. So we had to rethink this one.
Yeah.
Again, came up with something that sums up really what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then where can we find you online and on social media?
You can find me on Facebook, author Rhys Bowen, and you can find me on Instagram, author Rhys Bowen. And I have on if you go to my website, you can sign up for my newsletter, which comes out about every 2 months.
Nice.
Uh, and yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Perfect. So, okay, Rhys Bowen, The Castle in the Glen, that is out on August 4th. Rhys, thank you so much for meeting with me today. So fun to pick your brain and to talk about all the like the juicy parts and then also just explore and what you got going on. And when and if you're ready to chat about your next work, feel free to
Oh,
come back. I'd love
oh,
to chat again.
absolutely. Yes, I will. Definitely. Thanks, Megan.
And there you go. That was Rhys Bowen talking about her book, The Castle in the Glen. That book is available now. Check out the show notes to see links where you can find Reese online and on social media and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you also see where to find Cantina Book Club on your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate it if you could hit that follow or subscribe button so that you never miss out on book reviews and author interviews. If you have any book loving friends who are looking to get more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they can find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head over to your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating and review. It helps me reach more potential listeners and fellow book lovers like you. And that goes for any podcast that you listen to, is one of the easiest things that you could do to help out. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always looking forward to providing suggestions based on any genre. You can also go to cantinabookclub.com to find and browse more in-depth book reviews. While you're at it, you can subscribe by entering your email on the website so that you can get new reviews and author interviews directly to your inbox. If you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you could donate by finding the form on cantinabookclub.com. Whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month, I seriously appreciate the support and share my appreciation in my own special way. And finally, the best ways to help authors promote their work is to head over to Amazon, Storygraph, Goodreads, anywhere that you might leave a rating and review and do that for your author and the title that you love. It is one of the best ways to help them reach new readers and to help expose their work into the world. Thanks so much for listening and see you next time. Cheers.